I'd like to call the January 3, 2012 meeting of the Buncombe County Commission to order. And as always, I'll ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Vice Chair Stanley is under the weather tonight, and he was scheduled to give the invocation, so if you'll join me, I will substitute in his place. Let us pray. God, thank you for all you give us. Sometimes we forget about it, the hustle and bustle of holidays, and we forget all of your love and your compassion for all of us. Take care of the folks that get left behind. Take care of the little man, the little woman. For those who are cold, give them warmth. For those who are sad, give them joy. For those who have despair over bad economic conditions or any other reason, help them find some level of contentment and some level of joy. God, thank you for the mountains. Thank you for our families, our friends, all you give us. Remind us this whole year how much bounty and how much you've given each one of us. And most of all, help us to take care of other people that don't have as much as we do. There's so much suffering. There's so many folks without jobs. There's so many folks that are having tough times. Help us to make decisions here and elsewhere with compassion and understanding that other folks are having a tough time. Amen. In accordance with the Code of Ethics adopted by the Commission, it's the duty of every board member to avoid actual and apparent conflicts of interest. Does any board member know of any actual or apparent or possible conflict of interest with respect to any matter coming before the board?
No, sir.
Not, we'll proceed. Is there a motion to follow the agenda as it's been advertised and printed?
So move. Second.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Peterson, a second by Commissioner Jones. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor of following the agenda, and that means approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The agenda will be followed as printed by a 4-0 vote. Good news. Director of the Year, Ed Sheary, we have. It's our honor today to have your board honor you. So, board, why don't you come up and tell us a little bit about this award-winning man, and we are so proud of you. Why don't all of you come up? You're all part, and we can't be more proud of Ed Sheary than we are.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Commission. I'm Kim McQueen. I chair the library board this year. Behind me are, way behind me, are
hiding behind you. Why don't y'all get out? Let's see who you are.
Members of the board. And it's our sincere honor to be able to join you in commending Ed Sheary, the Library Director of the Year for North Carolina. He's done, as we all know, wonderful things for our library system. The library is really the heart of any community, and I think Ed's leadership as libraries are changing technologically and in the way they serve their communities, and certainly his leadership in the renovation of the library. All of it comes together to make a wonderful space, and it's our, again, pleasure and honor to join you in honoring him. Thank you.
All right. you know we got to hear from you. And this is the whole state of North Carolina is honored. It's not just a local honor. This is competing or recognized by how many libraries across the state, Ed?
Hundreds.
There are 76 public library directors in North Carolina. And I have had to tell people, I've been a library director in North Carolina for 31 years. That's how long it took to get this. I'm not sure exactly what it means. But recognition by one's peers is always, it is very gratifying, and I'm no denying that. I've been lucky, and they say timing is everything, and in my case it really has been, because I'm in my 22nd year as your library director. I was thinking back of the board that was here, Gene Rainey, Tom Sobel, of course Bill, Doris, Jess Ledbetter, and the boards that have come since. I've had the privilege of working with great trustees. I've been through probably 3 generations of trustees as they serve their time and move on, and they've all been very supportive and helpful. But one thing I wanted to say, and that this probably is as much to Wanda as to anybody else. I've watched the county itself become something really special. And as I went through this building project, the PAC Library project, it kind of came home to me, because I figured that may well be the last one of these I do, is how well this county works together. And a couple of things came to mind there is first of all, there's a genuine team spirit of once this board decides something's going to happen in how all the various departments start working together. And the thing that is probably the most remarkable about it is an almost total absence of gotcha. Because a lot of us, we live in fear of, okay, well, we're a little over budget over here on this side. Well, what's going to happen? And in some organizations, you get swatted for that. In this organization, you're going to have 3 or 4 people looking at Donna up there saying, well, maybe there's some money over here that you've got in this pocket you hadn't thought of. They're going to help you solve the problem. And that's what makes it a really fun place to work most of the time. And that's why we're able to get so much done. So I think you all, as board members, really have something to be proud of, because an organization that works, and works as well as this one does most of the time, is a rare and wonderful thing. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And what the board trustees, why don't you come up and say who you are, maybe if you want to say anything else about Ed, because we are blessed.
I'm Bob Etter. I've been a board member for 5 or 6 years, I think now. And we're always very proud of Ed and his leadership. He runs a great library and a great system, and we're very proud of him for that.
I'm Eleanor Johnson. Excuse me, Eleanor Johnson. I'm a brand new member of the board and the token librarian, professional librarian on the board, and delighted to be working with Ed.
I'm Pat Whalen, and I serve on a lot of boards, but this is my most fun board, and I'm a great patron of the library, and I love working with Ed. He's been a tremendous director, and we appreciate the support you guys give us.
Thank you, sir.
Megan Gordon, and I'm new onto the board, but I've been with the Friends of the Library board for in the past, and I'm just happy to be able to work with Ed and the library staff as.
Thank you, Kim.
Well, thanks again for this opportunity, and just in closing, I want to say it's a testimony to Ed that when it's his turn to stand in the spotlight, he turns it back on you. But we again want to say how thankful we are in this community for Ed's leadership in the library. The county has a lot to do with it, but sometimes it comes down to leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, no one mentioned this, but I'd like to give kudos to the Citizen Times for the article that they did on Ed. I believe it was Sunday. If you want to read the story of a young man who started, I think he was about 2 years old when he shelved his first book for the Buncombe or the Asheville libraries, it's really, really a great story of a gentleman who has given his life literally to the libraries here in Buncombe County, and it is a wonderful story. I'm not sure if I recall who wrote the article, but please pull that back up. Mark, did you write? Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I pulled that right out of the hat. But it really is a great article, and it's a great story and a great testament to Ed's life, and we are very, as the chairman said, very blessed to have this man in our midst.
Well, and just your civic club, your president, I think, of Kiwanis Civitan Club, on top of everything else. I see him walking back and forth to your different roles, and thank you, Ed. You make us a better community. Next up, we're going to have a mental health services report, and I think we have our sheriff, Van Duncan, Amy Griffith, program director for jail diversion and reentry with RHA services, and Major Glenn Matiabas, the administrator of the detention center. Sheriff, good to see you.
Good
Happy New
afternoon,
Year.
Commissioners. It's good to see you as well. I think Chairman Gantt had asked a couple of weeks ago to come in and have a report on mental health services and addiction services in the jail, or some case management that we're doing. And that has started several years ago. And basically what we were finding is a lot of consumers of mental health services, we were finding that the jail was slowly becoming a catch basin for those folks because of a lot of the state services drying up. So with a lot of forethought, the idea was put out there that we need to start dealing with this issue a little bit more in the foreground, and a little bit more with the thought of how we can do some effective things in the detention center, maybe to avoid that criminal justice piece for folks who might be suffering from a mental illness who may have committed a very minor crime. So as we started looking into that, there were a lot of different things that went into the jail management piece, and very much of them centered around how we interact with mental health services providers such as RHA, and how we look at those folks and trying to eliminate some of that mental health piece. Now, the situation we had about 4 years ago is we had an average daily population that would sometimes hit 510, 520. And right now we're looking at a very decreased population, and we very actively manage that jail population. Now, when I go out and I talk with folks in the community, sometimes I have to stop and explain that, because they say, Sheriff, isn't it good to have the jail full of the folks that are out here doing crimes? And the answer to that is absolutely. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to identify the folks who may have gotten in there through some very minor offense, who have a mental illness or an addictions issue, who are kind of our frequent flyers. They continue to come back through the criminal justice process, and trying to do something that's a little more effective and efficient with those folks. Now, when we talk about managing the jail population and bringing that population down, there's also another number that we watch very closely, and that's our uniform crime reporting number that the state reports on every year. And I'm extremely glad to tell you that Buncombe County over the past 4 years has seen a 30% reduction in the major 8 crimes, and those are homicide, sexual assault, aggravated assault, motor vehicle theft, armed robbery, burglary, larceny, and arson. So we've seen those numbers dramatically drop, along with the numbers in the detention center, our average daily numbers. So as long as both those numbers are going in the right way, we feel like we're having a lot of success with managing the jail population. I'd like for Amy Griffith to come up now with RHA, and RHA has been an extremely vital partner for us to be able to deal with the mental health issues and effectively deal with those folks that we find in the detention center. Amy.
My lackey for right now. Hi, thank you for having us. My name is Amy Griffith, and I'm with RHA. I'm a licensed professional counselor, and I oversee several of the programs that we administer through contracts with the county. And I've been doing this, I'm almost at 2 years now, so I'm still new. So the first slide is going to be just an overview of,
I'm just clicking away.
just clicking away. The major's going to pull up a slide that shows an overview of some of our
There you go.
some of our services, and I'll pass these things around. We'll talk a little bit more about that too. Excuse me. So this sort of highlights, thank you, Rich Munger, for putting this together for us. He's really the brains behind this. This highlights the collaboration that's going on among systems, and most of these systems are, for most purposes, being funded by the county. So this is a really good way for you guys to see how your money's really working together to help us meet our needs. I could go on, but if you'll just notice the two bottom right blue squares, I think that's our topic today, so I'll stick with that. Although I do have lots and lots to say about some of the other squares, the yellow ones especially. So if you want any information, ask me later, and I'd be glad to. Right now, we're offering sort of a three-prong approach to the jail. We work closely with jail staff, pretrial release staff, attorneys, and judges to identify people who are coming into the facility as quickly as possible, usually within 24 hours, who may, as the major said, be here for crimes that are secondary to an untreated mental health or substance abuse disorder. And we have 3 case managers who are outreaching those people, again, usually within 24 hours. And if the person is there primarily due to a severe and persistent mental illness that's not being treated appropriately, often this is a trespassing kind of a charge with maybe a homeless schizophrenic person, we can usually divert them out of jail until their court date. And this is a post-booking diversion where we're identifying these people and in cooperation with the incarcerated individual developing a treatment plan, housing, any other public services that they need to help them stay stable. And we're presenting that to the judge, usually by their bond hearing within 2 to 3 days, sooner if we can, and actually getting that person out of the facility into a stable treatment environment and under a little bit of pressure to follow through before their next court date, because they can be violated if they don't. So we got a little safety net there. Right now we've got I think we have 10 people right now in our jail diversion program, and we're screening 15 to 20 people a month. Some of them bond out before they need our help, so those numbers can go down. But we're diverting right now at least 2 people, usually closer to 4 people every month out of county jail that are in a severe and persistent mental illness kind of state. The other 2 case managers are focusing on people who have mental health primary or substance abuse primary. They may not be quite as chronic as what we're seeing for jail diversion, but they're still back in and in and in over and over and over again because they're not dealing with their psychosocial issues very well. And they meet with those people. The white book that Rich is responsible for is a really great resource guide of everything that's going on in the county, not service providers, but how to get those service providers. They're developing a reentry plan with them. What do you need? Do you need help with housing? Do you need help with food stamps? Do you need help with babysitters? What are all the things that are preventing you from being able to live out on the streets without getting in trouble? And linking them with treatment and with services, the substance abuse treatment that they need, and we're seeing those numbers go down a lot. On average, right now, those 2 case managers are screening 90 to 110 people a month, and they are providing psychoeducational groups on the units every day, and they're seeing between 350 people attend their groups on a monthly basis. All right. You want to go to the other 2?
Sure.
All right.
Just very briefly, in 2009, they actually did a study as far as to take a look as far as the number of folks that were dependent, what were some of the issues that they had in the facility. Certainly there was a correlation, as the sheriff spoke about, between crime and obviously who's in custody. But one of the questions from the sheriff's leadership that he wanted to see was, well, who needs to be in jail? That's a very good question. By that. And so we took a look at some other issues in here, but from the study, basically this is what RHA did for us as far as with inmate population, and that's what I will talk about at the very last slide. From the study, basically for those that had a substance abuse case management that Amy spoke about, which is very successful, actually prevented 1.5 arrests. For the mental health case management, that prevented 0.75 arrests, and from the jail diversion or adjust program, that prevented 1 arrest from the study that they did in 2009. As a result of that, what does that mean? Well, for the jail diversion, actually, it's quite successful. If you take a look at it in number of jail days for us, Basically what happened is that's prevented 1,154 arrests. Now, taking our average length of stay with that, basically what that happened was that was 31,158 days in jail were prevented, or what they caused to happen was that left 85 beds open in the jail. Between them and also the pretrial program, these are the two biggest programs that certainly have the biggest impact as far as with jail diversion. And certainly, just to go ahead and take a look at that, what does that mean? Well, preventing recidivism means it's less crime, as the sheriff spoke about, with those numbers being reduced by 30%, which means a safer community. Preventing arrests also frees up the law enforcement time to focus on other citizens and safety issues. So the real question is, who do we want in jail? Well, we want the people in jail that need to be in jail, but if they're in jail because they don't have the services available, then we're working to connect those services and just to reduce the recidivism. So when you take a look at the population, one of the things that I really want to note is that our total rated capacity is 604. Now, one of the issues that we have currently right now, there are 2 units that are not being utilized, which is the annex, which is being upgraded right now. Our total operational capacity is 524, which is 428 males and 96 females. Currently in the facility, we're only at 58.6% of capacity, which means we have 171 beds available. Now, what does this mean? What it means is we don't have to build another facility for another $24 million to the county. And so what has happened, we're very thankful is, and it's not just any one thing, it's certainly to Mandy, it's certainly to the commissioners, it's certainly to the county manager with Wanda and John Creighton and the leadership there, but putting funds to those services so that that's money well spent as far as keeping in jail who you need to keep in jail. Now, I want to kind of just point out, so when I did this on the 28th of December, our population was at 309. One of the issues, if you'll take a look, is 50 of those folks were federal inmates. It wasn't too long ago that we housed for the past 4 months for Cleveland County about 30 to 50 inmates per day, which generated some other revenue for us, which was about $157,000. So one of the things is when we run a jail, it is an operation, but there are some business aspects to that, and certainly that does help out. We're currently using those funds to assist as far as with the renovation at our annex facility. So again, the numbers are very good. Now, what does that mean? Well, for 2011, the average daily population was 394. Now, that includes all the federal inmates that we had, which at times were up to about 67, plus the 30 to 50 that we housed from Cleveland County. So this year was the lowest in the past 5 years. And certainly the credit goes to the entire collaboration that we have with the DA's office, Public Defender's Office, RHA, county government, the folks in the jail as far as dealing with those issues, the local law enforcement dealing with other CIT issues, and some of those other issues that we do have.
Tell us what CIT, just for the...
Well, the crisis intervention that we do have as far as for our folks team, they go through a special training in how to communicate with those folks that have some type of mental disability. One of the things that's very difficult in the jail setting with those folks that are in there, being able to very quickly recognize that. And that's what happens for us with that training, that they very quickly identify those folks, work with RHA, work with pretrial, can we divert this person and get them to some type of services, or working with our medical folks to go ahead and get the services they need. It might be medication to get them more stable so that, one, they understand what's going on as far as with the services that are there.
And that's something before Rich and the staff even gets it, you have the frontline officers recognizing mental health problems versus meanness problems.
That's correct.
And,
yes.
and you're trying to get the mean folks in jail and the folks with mental and substance abuse somewhere that they can get some additional help. But primarily, I guess CIT is just mental, right?
It is.
It's not substance.
But we take a look at that all the way around. So mental health is there. It's an issue for us. It is something that does impact the length of stay. For example, if somebody comes in on a trespass charge and they have mental health issues, and one of the problems is they go into court, and the first thing they do, rather than accepting an attorney, they waive that attorney. They will not be back into court for 6 to 8 weeks. So when our folks see that and identifying them, we work with them to say, what is it that they need? Is it because that they need services, they need to go ahead and get some stable housing? come up with some type of plan, which RHA does for us, so that that person is just not sitting in custody. They go back into court, they get time served, and they get released back in the community, but nothing was done as far as some type of plan, and that's really where RHA comes into place. And that's how we really go ahead and keep the population down.
And Major, about how much is it per day, the cost to the county to have an inmate?
It's $107 per day.
Okay, so every 107 times whatever we're keeping out, diverting, and getting them help so that they don't come back.
That is correct. Now, again, we talk about as far as costs that are in there, those costs that are a stable cost for us, irregardless of the population that is still going to be there. Staffing, utilities, food, equipment, those type of things. But it does help out in the cost of there. The bigger part about that is we're not building another facility. So we're constantly working to decrease the population so that we're not having to spend millions of dollars to build a larger facility. So the real question is for Buncombe County, how big of an operational facility do we want? And so we're trying to, as best as possible, to keep that under 524. I think, again, we have some room certainly to work with. And one of the big pushes also that has helped us, we're in a lot better spot than a lot of other counties based on the new legislation that actually started January 1st.
Yeah, mention that. Tell us about the misdemeanor.
It's a statewide misdemeanor confinement program. And basically what happens is 90 days or less before spent the time in the detention facility, the local facility. It used to be that they paid us $18 a day for each day that they would serve that sentence. That went away by legislation, and now the new change that they have is that anyone sentenced 91 to 180 days on a misdemeanor will serve that time at the local facility. The only difference is they will pay you $40 per day in order to house those individuals which are there. We have volunteered to participate in the program so that not only will we house our inmates in Buncombe County, but we've told them up to 30 inmates that we would go ahead and house as well for other counties. The only real issue is that you have a lot of counties, a lot of smaller counties, certainly in the West, that are also very anxious to generate some of the other revenue. When it comes to revenue in the West, we're one of the largest counties producing revenue, such as with our federal revenue is at $1.2 million that we should have this year. So we're probably going to get ours from Buncombe County, but not so much as far as from the other counties. But we're willing certainly to manage that population as much as possible. But again, trying to bring in as much revenue we can to offset the cost for the county as far as to operate the facility.
Just one thing I wanted to add real quickly, and I didn't realize Rich wasn't coming up here to present. I thought he was presenting as well. I really want to give Rich Munger a hand and thank him for all his effort, because his effort both in detention and also with the crisis intervention team training that we've done out in the public has made a safer environment on the outside, plus has really helped us manage the jail population. So thank you.
Question and a comment. And you know, first of all, I can remember, I don't know how many years ago it was, and I was on city council, and we had to do the permitting approval for the jail, and the trajectory that, you know, because we were approving this jail, but the comments were about what was coming. You know, we're going to need another one in the next number of years, and I can just remember being sick to my stomach. You know, just thinking about, first of all the dollars that were going to be invested in building it, which we needed and was a good investment, but just knowing that the human life that we weren't dealing with those issues along the way. So clearly, y'all have, you know, led the way in the collaborations, in the innovations, in the compassion. You know, not just benefiting our state, but we know that, I mean, our community, but we know that y'all have been a model statewide and nationally too. So. Thank goodness y'all turned that corner, because those were some scary numbers coming down the pike. This is just a kind of a more of a minor question about, I don't know if it would go under the jail diversion program, but I know in the maybe last year or year before there was one of the collaborations had to do with women at risk, and yes. When you broke down some of the demographics, it came to mind again. So I'm wondering where they are in this very excellent collaboration system of care and how that folds in.
We have actually turned some drug seizure forfeiture money into time for the counselors, for the folks at Women at Risk, to provide those services for folks who would otherwise be in our jail. who were diverted to this program, who they show a very, very high success rate with getting them out and getting them out of the system completely. Women at risk, one of the things that you're looking at there a lot of times is you have mothers that are involved in some of that crime, and the impact that has when you return a mother back into the household, to the family. We've been very proud to partner with them, but I've got to say it's been a collaborative effort. There's a lot of different pieces to the puzzle that has really helped us manage this jail population. Glenn has done a tremendous job in the forefront, making sure that it's all managed and done very well. And you're exactly right. I think, Wanda, we were due to build another facility by this time with the track and the numbers that we were on had we not have taken a different direction.
That's terrific.
The general increases from the last county commissioner's report is about 10% per year as far as growth that you're taking a look at. So it was kind of ironic you mentioned that. I looked back at some old reports, and we were supposed to be around 696 by this point, which I'm very glad certainly that we are not. But I will tell you, as far as women at risk, if you take a look at the numbers, we have 2 female units that hold 96 female inmates. Our population today is like 37. And so that's a big impact, certainly as far as women at risk and what they have done to go ahead and assist with that. But again, it's really no one thing.
Right.
It is all the pieces working together that help out to go ahead and make sure that population stays very manageable. So we're very fortunate, certainly as far as with that.
Major, could I get you, and could we in the back, go back to the second slide where you talked about the substance abuse? Because that's startling to me, and it doesn't surprise me on one level, but it's a strong figure where 52% of the males have substance abuse and 64% of the females. Mm-hmm. You know, to get at the root of the problem like you're doing makes us safer, and it's better for the person that's having these problems. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, is this consistent that you have that kind of problem, and what's the percent of mental illness that really causes the problems? Do you have a breakdown on that?
I'll let Amy answer that. My take on that is that you have some dual diagnosis that's there that go hand in hand. It's generally not just the mental health piece of that, but it's the combination of the two. And then as far as with the female aspect in that many times that they're brought into that abuse either from other domestic issues or other co-defenders in there that are in custody that are males that get brought into that other issue, but they're certainly answer that much better than I could.
That's the answer. You know, everyone we see with mental health issues almost always in the jail setting, 95% of the time has also a substance abuse issue of some sort. And most people with substance abuse issues are dealing with an untreated mental health issue, even if it's not a severe and chronic one. So the other thing I'd like to point out is that we are the largest homeless shelter in the city. I think I just did the numbers for December, and this is pretty consistent, between 20 and 30 unique individuals, not repeats, every month that are homeless or at risk of homelessness or coming through the jail.
But a lot of times it seems that we focus on mental health. Our concern with the mental health is, can those folks understand to help themselves as far as to keep coming back into the facility? One thing we did the other day, ran a report of, even though we have 309 that are in custody, 68 of those folks are either mental health involved or a mental subject that we've identified. And so when we go through there, many of them are in there for misdemeanor charges. And so we go back to the files and take a look at that process and to see exactly what seems to be the breakdown here. Why they keep coming back in? Because we're just trying to stay ahead of the game so that if we don't do that, then our length of stay is going to be much larger. The jail population is going to be much larger. But we know that's one target group that we can actually focus on to see exactly what we can do to go ahead and assist with that.
One last thing I wanted to bring up. You mentioned time served, and
yes,
as someone who used to represent criminal defense folks who broke the law, that would happen a lot. Somebody would do a minor crime, or they'd have, for some reason, like you've said, drugs, alcohol, or mental illness. They would fall through the system. They would get, I was probably the last lawyer they'd call, but they'd call me, and I'd go there, and they would be in jail a real long time. And the judge would say, what are you doing in jail for 6 months? You only trespassed, or you only did something that's more than the time you could possibly get. And they'd say, we'll give you time served. And the client would be happy because they get out of jail, but we've wasted all that resource. We've wasted an opportunity to help them so they don't come back. So, it's just a win-win, as Commissioner Jones and all of us feel. We're doing better. And it's a lot better than when I was involved in the system, because that happened all the time. The people would get time served, much more time than they should have been in. We've wasted county money, and we haven't made them any better. So I just salute you. I salute the CIT program where you frontline people, figure out who's eligible. And I like you making the call, because I think you're in a unique position to make the call who needs to be in jail versus who needs help. And maybe they need both, but getting people out that are minor offenders to make room and run it more like a business. I mean, it's not a business, but we have to look at the cost to the taxpayers, and everyone's concerned about that, and you're being good stewards of that money, and I thank you for that.
And I think it's also important to point out that this is another collaborative effort among departments in Buncombe County. And I think this is something we saw when Ed Sheary was thanking the folks who helped make the library run. And we're thanking the folks who make the jail run, but I'm looking at Rich back there, who every health board meeting, if we can get him to say anything, because he's such a shy fella, seriously, but when he speaks volumes, and you're right. He's been an integral part of that, as has Mandy Stone. So it's the way we work as a county and how things mesh together, and we're not by ourselves in a situation. We look at how we help the citizens in general, and thank you. And thank you, Rich, hiding back there. I love that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Wonderful program. Thank you for what you do. Next up, we have a public hearing on the Norris Max Clubb property, and we have Ms. Trumpy here to tell us about that. Debbie?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Max Clubb has applied to rezone tax lot pin 9678789474, located at 1910 US 70 Highway, from R1 Single Family Residential to the CS Commercial Service District. The property is 1.27 acres and located on the north side of US 70, just west of the intersection of Warren Wilson College Road. The requested zoning would be consistent with surrounding uses, as the area is comprised of a mix of residential and commercial uses, which include a car dealership, gas station, and offices. The property east, west, and south of this lot is zoned CS already. And in April of this year, the lot that is adjacent just to the east of this property was rezoned from R1 to CS. The requested zoning is consistent with the Buncombe County Land Use Plan update, which indicates that CS is primarily intended to provide suitable locations for clustered commercial development to encourage a concentration of commercial activity in those specified areas with access to major traffic arterials. And the Planning Department recommends approval of the request. The Buncombe County Planning Board held its public hearing regarding this request December the 19th. There were 3 speakers, 1 for and 2 against the requested rezoning. Issues that were cited for concern were that light, noise, and perhaps traffic would encroach in the residential neighborhood north of this lot. I would note that our zoning requires that any new commercial development would install buffers between it and any existing residential use. The Planning Board found that the rezoning is consistent with the land use plan, is consistent with the surrounding area, and is reasonable and in the public interest, and the Planning Board unanimously recommended approval of this request.
Okay, any questions of Ms. Trumpy before we have a public hearing?
No, sir.
Thank you.
I just
Okay.
want a quick technical question about one of the the slides on our presentation here. And it's the one that's titled Assessed Use. Now, I'm just kind of having a mental block about how that differs from the zoning categories.
The assessed use is the tax assessors go out and
okay,
establish
right on,
what
right
the
on,
use is
okay.
on each lot.
I see. So that's something that how does that play into land use, or is that just kind of FYI type of thing?
It's more FYI. This area in particular was one of those that was not zoned until December 1st of '09,
Right.
so there is some mix in there that you would not normally expect.
Right on, yeah. Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
All right, any other questions before we have our public hearing? Then I will open the public hearing. I got 5:13 p.m. Any members of the public wish to speak on this rezoning request? Mr. Rice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just a clarifying question. On those slides, I just remember looking at them at home, and I thought I saw where it said the hearing board would be January 9th at the bottom of those pages. And I don't know if that's correct or not, but I saw January 9th as a hearing date. And I just wondered if the people was properly notified or not. That's a question.
All right. Why don't you go ahead and answer that one, and then we'll take more public comment.
The notices were properly mailed, and they did include the notice of the meeting at this date with maps. The problem that Mr. Rice points out is that there were some maps, incorrect maps posted on the website initially, and they were replaced with the correct maps.
So the people that have the right to the notice, they got the notice for the right date.
That's correct.
All right. Any other public comment? Thank you. Yes, sir. If you'll give your name and where you live, sir.
Yes. My name is Tim Clubb. I'm the son of Norris Max Clubb. On behalf of the SC, Forrest cannot be here. He's traveling back from a trip and wasn't able to make it, so I'm speaking in his stead. But yeah, it is something that right now we're just wanting to clear off and hope for economic development for others, and maybe possibly open it up to where it could create economic and jobs for other people. So we just appreciate your support in rezoning that for commercial.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Pam Maxwell Clubb. I'm the daughter of Max Clubb. I'd just like to note that we have grown up in this area and been here for years and are avid supporters. I've lived in the Swannanoa area and currently live in the Fairview area. We are supporters of our neighbors and of our co-workers and of our friends, and we are here in the economic situation with everybody else. So we are looking for opportunities. We didn't have to even clear off the property whenever it was purchased, but we did because there were people that were looking for jobs at Christmas time. So we appreciate your support in helping us support our community.
Thank you, Pam. Any other public comment today on this rezoning request? All right. If not, I'll declare the public hearing closed at 5:17. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve the zoning request by Commissioner Bailey, a second by Commissioner Peterson. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, no. The zoning request is approved 4-0. Thank you. We will not have a county manager report. I think we determined in pre-hearing. New business. We have a resolution requesting the North Carolina Board of Transportation to name Smoky Park Bridge in memory of Captain Jeffrey Bowen. Do we have anybody going to present that?
Why don't you read it, David?
All right. If I can get where I want to. Yes, I will read it. Thank you. Okay, let me just read the resolution. Whereas Captain Jeffrey Scott Bowen, a 13-year veteran of the Asheville Fire Department, died on July 28, 2011, while responding to a 4-alarm fire at an office building located at 445 Biltmore Avenue in the city of Asheville. And whereas Captain Jeffrey Scott Bowen was first assigned as firefighter to Engineer Company 1, then promoted to Fire Engineer of Engine Company 7, then promoted to Lieutenant, and then most recently as Captain of Rescue Company 3. And whereas Captain Bowen was the coordinator of the rescue boat for the Asheville Police Department's Back to Basics program, which serves youth of the community. And whereas Captain Bowen was a member of the Asheville Fire Department Promotional Criteria Committee and received a bachelor's degree in 2010 in Fire Safety and Management. And whereas throughout his career, Captain Jeff Bowen brought honor to the city of Asheville and Buncombe County and had his life tragically cut short in the line of duty, leaving behind family, friends, and co-workers. And whereas this board has received requests from the North Carolina State Fire Marshal, Asheville Fire Department, Buncombe County Firefighters Association, and Buncombe County Fire Chief Association to have Captain Bowen's Captain Bowen's dedication and sacrifice memorialized by having the Smoky Park Bridge named in his honor. They have chosen this bridge due to its proximity to Captain Bowen's fire station. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the County of Buncombe as follows, that this board does hereby request the North Carolina Board of Transportation to dedicate the Smoky Park Bridge in memory of Captain Jeffrey Scott Bowen, and that this resolution is approved upon its adoption. I'd like to make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? I think it goes without saying that Captain Bowen made the ultimate sacrifice for our community. He was a wonderful man. Commissioner Jones, I don't know if you knew him when during your city time.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Everything we learned about him was just top-notch man and good family man and well-deserving. Any other discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All those in favor of this resolution say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The resolution is adopted 4-0. Next up, we have Economic Development Report, and we have Ben Teague with the Asheville Chamber of Commerce here to give us a report. Mr. Teague, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you for letting me be here. I appreciate the entire commission for your support over the year, but I just wanted to, if we could go ahead and start my presentation, that'd be great. Just want to take this opening slide just an opportunity to say thank you first to Commissioner Bailey, who serves as the chair of our board. He's done a fantastic job during his term, but also thank you to the commission for allowing us access to the really quality staff members of the county. John Creighton and Wanda Green and Michael Frew have really engaged with us in a great way that projects that we've worked on would not have happened without your support as well as the staff support. So thank you for that. Next, I just want to kind of tell you I have a short period of time to go through what will seem like a lot of information. So just want to tell you we're going through 3 years of an update. So I want to tell you kind of where we were when I first got here, and then where we are now, and some of the successes we've had, and then where we're going, in just brief clips. So just to kind of start off, I made it here, and that is the picture of when I got here, and the bear got in my car there, and it made all kinds of news. And in my first week here on the job, and that happened, and I wondered what kind of county I had moved to with a bear getting in my car. But really the question in my mind was, what did the EDC look like as a professional environment, and what kind of ground needs to be covered? And some of the concerns that were plaguing me as I first got here was the first thing, the lower left there, the signs of the Great Recession were starting to hit. And we made it there, is right on the precipice of that. And then I heard from different board members like, hey, you're really not, as a board, what you're walking into is board engagement. It's tough. We're really not engaged at this point. I looked at our marketing materials. They were really out of date. We needed to update. That's actually not our marketing materials there, but but they were really had to be updated. And just from a organizational standpoint, we had to get some of the right people and the right seats and the right bus for us to be able to move forward. And on top of those sort of things, I just, as an economic development director, things that concern me, well, we had the CEO of the chamber that I just moved to was looking to retire here soon. And we needed a strategy to be put in place of where we're going to go. And we needed that strategy to align with our financial statements and our financial conditions. And we needed to do that in a very transparent way so that people can understand what was going on. So we had our work cut out for us. So understanding that and the situation that we were in, I also knew this. This was the metrics of success that we had to report out to our partners who fund us. So the return on investment for the EDC, the money that's poured into us, is a number that's reported out every year that's available out there. But the calculations of that is really pretty simple. Number of jobs. And that number of jobs is not just a sheer number, but they want to be quality jobs. So the arrow pointing over there to dollars is really wages for those jobs. We have a minimum floor, or we look at the average wage of those jobs. And then capital investment or capital expenditures by the company. And you'll know those as being equipment, or it could be even buildings like Moog's building here. And it's really the improvements on the sites that have come here. So those really are the metrics that we're working towards. And understanding the situation that I was in and surveying this and understanding those as my metrics, what actually has happened. This is a list of the companies that have announced over the last 3 years. In 2009, you'll notice all the way to the left-hand side, recessionary kind of times. So it was tough times, but we still had some successes. And then 2010 and 2011, we kept banging through it. But I would say that this list is probably not reflective of what you can see in the graph here. You can see, and I wish I could step out here, that goes back to 2005, that graph does. And you'll notice kind of pre-recessionary times, we were kind of rocking along there, but then you hit the recession and numbers dropped. And you can see the blue line is actually the number of jobs, and the red line is capital investment. And then, so Chairman Bailey made it to be the chair of us. We can right there, the third line over from the right, and he took over, and I arrived here as well, and we started putting a team together, and good things started happening, and you can see what the effect was each year. They're finishing 2011 with about 600 jobs announced there, and so it was a good year for us. However, the question is, what can you not see in that graph that are also success, or things that are setting us up for success? Well, as I mentioned before, we didn't have a strategy. Now we've put together the AVL 5x5 strategy, and that took hundreds of people in the community pulling together to make that happen. That actually we engaged, I think it was 168 different people to put that together. So it was really a grassroots plan. But that plan led to the transparency that you'll now see in our financial statements. You can clearly link our strategy to our financials, and you can take 5 seconds and know what we've done and have we done our job or not in our financials. But that financial plan and that strategy links over to what we heard from the community is that we need some sections on entrepreneurship and small business pieces. And so we actually created an office over there at the AB Tech Incubator so that we can engage and dig in with our cohorts that were doing the same thing, and we wanted to have a presence there on site. And that led to the creation of talent development position and entrepreneurship director position to add to what I would say when we got the right people on the bus, a very stable team like Clark Duncan here, who's done a phenomenal job. Outside of that, if you look in the lower left-hand corner there, that's our job fair. That's a picture of our job fair. You can see there's lots of different types of positions for a lot of different people. But when we first got here and the history of that, it went from 50, and then it grew to 75 employers, and then last year 82, and then this year a record-breaking 84 employers. And in the count of job seekers there, up this last year, what we thought was about 3,000 people coming, and the traffic was backed up. Sheriff Duncan helped us with that, but backed up out onto the interstate and up the interstate, which is a bad sign that we have that many people looking for jobs. But it's encouraging that our organization, with your support, put together a really regional, phenomenal job event that those people could come to, and there were hundreds, over 1,000 jobs available for those people to go to, and we were able to create that venue for them. But telling that story, I think, and telling the story of economic development to projects takes new and different marketing ways of doing that. So back when we had old, out-of-date marketing materials, we now have kind of new era, frontier marketing materials. We're developing an app, and with things that can be customized. So our clients, they come in and they have an agenda which was very driven. You imagine moving your house with only a few hours to see the community that you're moving to. Imagine moving your company to somewhere where you only have a few hours to discover the community, and that being such an efficient process, it's very much a driver. And so we can, we're kind of technically, we're linking those different pieces together. And our print materials, you can on the fly customize very specifically to the company our print materials. We have videos, apps, print materials. All those things are branding and coming together. But we can't do it alone, and we recognize this. And so we engage with people outside of our organization. The CVB, you see their logo up there. Our board, we've specifically brought board members from around the table and set them in front of our clients and said, please tell our story for us, because peer-to-peer communications are some of the most powerful. And then even public policy, I think we are firing on all cylinders to make our projects happen. And we've had to go for and advocate for different legislative pieces to make our projects happen. And that's been a successful piece for us. So where are we going? We're going to continue to work our strategy. We're going to continue to engage the executives of the area, and that's just a collage of some of the different executives around the area that we've probably engaged in the last 30 days for our clients to say this is our story. We're going to continue to put the brands out there and the companies out there that reinforce who we are and our brand, which is the watchword of our new era economic development pieces. We have a strong brand, and we're going to continue to push that, and we're going to continue to seek the companies and with the resources that we have in very niche ways to promote our brand. And the words that I have up there is really our job is lighting the fires of others to tell our story. Our marketing director, Clark, his old job description used to be go out and talk to companies on behalf of the Economic Development Coalition. His new role is really more of coordinating the people within our community to tell our story on our behalf and reinforce our brand and talk with that company. So I think it's really laying a foundation of becoming not only just that graph of success, but it's really becoming a proactive, pro-business community to reach out there and talk with the community, talk with the companies before they get to our doorstep and we react to them. Mm-hmm. So with that, that's my 3-year update.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Wonderful. Any questions for Mr. T or comments?
I just have a few questions. So if you kind of had to just do the back of the envelope calculation of the amount of effort, because I think this is a great trend, that you're investing in kind of acquiring new businesses to come to town, and the amount of time that you're using to kind of help facilitate, the homeboys and girls to be able to expand. How does that break out, just out of curiosity?
Well, we have a staff member dedicated solely to going out and visiting our existing companies here. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, sometimes we have the news where a company is not going to make it, or they're going to move, or different things like that, and we engage with them to work with their employees and find other positions. But we are very, very concentrated on our existing businesses, and a huge portion of our projects in general, of what I'll call them, come from existing companies. And so not only is Clark out there marketing to outside companies, but also he's telling the message internally of do business here, and that message is not just for companies outside the area of do business here. It's for companies internal to the area. So good question. I think it would be askew if I told you the exact dollar amounts, because it's cheaper to go see the Holly Jones Company down the street from me than it is to drive to an out-of-state location. But in terms of time frame, I would say we probably spend more time on local companies than we do external companies.
That's really interesting. And the other, this is just kind of one of those scratching my head things, because that job fair that keeps on, getting bigger and bigger. So do people wait to hold those jobs until the job fair, or is that just like a moment in time, like a balance sheet would reflect, what that moment in time means? Like, are there always 1,000 jobs available in our community, and this just has happened to be when the job fair was? Or people know the job fair is coming, so they're going to wait? How does that work? Do you understand where I'm coming from?
Sure. And I see Clark, he's kind of biting at the bit. He probably wants to answer it as well. And I'll give my take, and then I'll offer it up to Clark if he has something different. What we do is we serve as a venue to bring the companies together and offer their jobs. And I think serving as that venue, we can bring a lot of publicity to the fact that there's these jobs in these companies, and so a crowd gathers for these jobs. But I think that is in many ways the innate job needs of the area, and we just bring it to one location and it becomes a significant event. That being said, we have served or used the job fair to get new companies or companies that have just located, give them an opportunity to have great exposure to the people of the area and the skills of the area, like Linamar. They didn't wait for their jobs for the job fair, but they were there, and they had a line lined up in front of them for a couple hours before it even started. Clark, is there anything to add?
Not to get too much in the weeds, but it's a snapshot in time. When they register for the fair, we ask them to estimate how many real jobs they will fill in the first 3 months of the year.
I see.
So we can promote that number of jobs being available.
That's great.
Yeah, and so those are very real jobs that will be filled very quickly.
Yeah. Well, it's a great service that the job hunter can come to one place and look. But basically, there are jobs available in our community throughout the year. I mean, so.
Absolutely.
I need to talk about Ben Teague and Clark Duncan and some of the other people that are working in economic development. I've often said that we are very fortunate to have Ben and to have Clark, but we've got a group of young people who are bright and dedicated and work every day to try to create jobs in this community. I can remember the day when people would sit around hoping somebody would call on the telephone. And they're not waiting for somebody to call on the telephone. They're out there making those calls, whether it's local or for companies that may have given indication that they may want to come to this area. And so my hat's off to them for the job that they're doing on a daily basis. And the job fair is a good example. I'm in there more often than they want me to be. But the week before the job fair happened, I saw the chart. I actually saw it for about 3 weeks. They started with 5, and then it was 10 employers, and and they were pushing every day. They were calling people. Why haven't you registered? Why aren't you going to be a participant? And they were going to make sure that when it was all said and done, that there were more employers at the job fair than there were the year before. And so we had 3,000 people attend. We had about 1,500 jobs that have been applied for. I mean, that's all, from an economic development standpoint, that's a really positive. And if you could see this crowd behind the scene, we've got some that are working right now. Can't talk about that. But the Linamar that's here, those people love these people because they're doing and still working with them on a daily basis to make sure that they're getting the right kind of employees, applying for jobs. If there's some problem that comes up that they can help them with, then they call in and they continue to do that. They're not going to, once they announce, you just don't forget about it. This is an ongoing process forevermore. So I'm excited about where we are and where we're going. I just hope that some of these that are on the hook now that we can make some announcements for in the future. But and the expanding ones in the community, Thermo Fisher has become 800 jobs in this community, 900 jobs in this community. Working with those people every day. I mean, they have a back office operation, they have a manufacturing operation. They like this area so well. They cleared out a space and brought another product line in that created that 110 jobs that was announced a few weeks ago. So it's a good prospect for all of us.
Now that Commissioner Bailey has shed a lot of light on stuff, my comments were going to be, of course, thanks to Clark and Ben, but I wanted to say that here is another example of partnerships. And what you're looking at is a partnership between the county, who has a commissioner who is the head of the chairman of the EDC commission. It's incredible how things have to work in partnerships. We have this gentleman who, as he will say, and these two gentlemen will probably agree, he probably shows up over there more than they want him to. But he works every day to get jobs into Buncombe County, as to the gentleman who's spoken to you. But it's all about partnerships, and my praise was going to go to Commissioner Bailey and the great partnership that we have with the county, with the chamber. And that doesn't just happen. It happens because he works every day to make sure that does happen. And he's going to smack me after the meeting, I know, but that needed to be said, and so I said it.
Good word.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clark. Thank you, Ben. Wonderful report. We earlier today interviewed a large number of planning board applicants. We will be interviewing some more applicants in 2 weeks, and we will probably be appointing that board on our January 17th meeting. We do have today a nursing home community advisory committee vacancy. Are there any nominations?
I'll give it a whirl shot. I'd like to nominate Jean Noelf. Is that correctly pronounced? If there's any confusion, it's Knoefel.
I'm going to second that.
All right. Any other nominations? We do have 5 vacancies, so this will be filling one of the 5. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. He is appointed. We also have current vacancies on Crime Stoppers Board of Directors. We have 2 vacancies on that board. Montreat Board of Adjustment, we have 1 vacancy representing the ETJ, extraterritorial jurisdiction. We have 1 Montreat Planning and Zoning appointment vacancy also from the ETJ. And then we have 1 Economic Development Coalition vacancy that we've just heard from that we're looking for applicants and nominations there. Announcements. The next regular meeting of the board will be January 17, 2012, beginning at 4:30. And our commission meetings can be seen on BCTV, Charter Cable Channel 2, ATTU Verse Channel 99, live on BuncombeCounty.org during the meetings, or anytime live online at buncombecounty.org. I think Mr. Frew told us earlier we will have a closed session.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Pursuant to General Statute 143-318-11A, number 3, have 2 matters concerning attorney-client privilege, and under 3 and 5, we have a mixed bag of attorney-client privilege and a property acquisition, and anticipate no action other than direction of this board.
All right, then what we have left is public comment. The official business of the county is now concluded, and we'll hold public comment. The time limit for comment to the board is 3 minutes. If your time expires, then you may leave any question along with your name, address, and phone number with the county manager. Board members are not expected to comment on matters during public comment. Comments should be limited to subjects that are within the jurisdiction of this commission and pertinent to the matters on which we may act. Any individual speaking during public comment shall address the entire board. Any polling of the board members is inappropriate. Persons addressing the board are expected to observe the decorum of the chamber and be respectful of everybody in the room. Any person who willfully interrupts, disturbs, or disrupts the session will be asked to leave the meeting, and the board reserves the right to deny public address on any subject that's previously been presented to the board. Let's go ahead and take public comment. Any public comment tonight? Mr. Yelton?
Don Yelton, very brief, very simple. I'd like to request publicly, and if you want it written, I'll give it to you written. I'd like to request a definition from our attorney of what is an actual, apparent, or potential conflict of interest. I would like that clarified. Number 2, your job fair was such a success, I would suggest you might want to consider it as a constant thing that be put on the internet. And you got to look at that carefully so you won't compete with employment agencies. But if there's any way in the world for that Economic Development Commission to list jobs that are absolutely needed that month and how they need to be filled. And furthermore, I would like to know the success rate of the hires. Because not only is it a good thing to create jobs, but we need to get the right person in the right job, and we need to get someone in that job who's going to stay in that job. And that's the true success of the money you've invested in the program. And I want to thank each and every one of you for great campaign speeches today.
Okay. Any other public comment? Mr. Rice?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Jobs, jobs, jobs. You know, that sounds so pretty. It sounds like President Obama when he said we won't change. Remember that big word? Every time I hear jobs, it makes my skin crawl because we have jobs around here, but they don't pay nothing. We get plenty of jobs, but they don't pay nothing. They don't keep nobody. We take Mrs. Stone over here, her department. My gosh, they got Medicaid running out their ears for people that ain't got no jobs. So what are we saying about all these jobs that we've got here? I think it's a fox in the hen house myself. I think we're talking about jobs, but there ain't really being any really good jobs created except for high-level folks. The people that really need the job ain't getting them. We wouldn't have so many people on disability Medicaid if we had real jobs. That's not a good campaign speech, Joe, is it? One thing I'd like to talk about is taxpayers. We had the chamber person here. We had TDA, and we just saw in the paper where 41% of the building was being sold to a company. My question is, tourism development and chamber has got millions of dollars over the years that I've been here for about 20, and millions of dollars that went out. I want to know if this money is going to be given back to the county that's in this building purchase. And the other question is, why did we move out of a nice, small, nice place into such an elaborate building and then turn around and sell a third of it? Now, another question is, Why couldn't we rent this space to these folks and have a return on our investment each year rather than one lump sum? And why couldn't that go back to the county each year rather than selling the building right out? To me, I think we need some people with thinking heads rather than just selling something like that. To me, we oversized it to begin with, and I remember the day when there's begging and pleading where to get the money at and how we was going to build it. Now we build it. Now, what happened? They left here. Somebody did. Now, the question would be, if we've got all these jobs, why are we selling this to a company to come in here and take over this space? If we're getting all these jobs in here, we ought to have more space for these people to be in to create more jobs. I mean, to me, it looks like that we must be in devastation of jobs, or we wouldn't be selling part of the building, or either we overcompensated one. I mean, there's some questions that the taxpayers need some relief one way or the other. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Any other public comment tonight?
Move we go into closed session.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bailey, second by Commissioner Peterson, to go in closed session. Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We'll be in closed session. Thank you.